In walleye fishing, one of the bread and butter techniques is jigging. Now, jigging is a fairly simple technique, so it's got fairly simple tackle, but don't think that you can't give yourself some advantages by picking the right jig for the right situation. First of all, if I'm fishing something like vertical jigging where my line is going straight down in a river, or maybe I'm doing something like dragging a jig slowly around a piece of structure and my line is just a little bit of an angle, the jig style I want to pick out is first of all a long shank jig. And the reason for that is when I set the hook in those kind of situations, basically I'm setting in an upward direction. And so the hook gap that's going to contact that fish's mouth is anywhere from the point of the jig all the way over here to the eyelet. So if I can open that up, I'm going to get more fish in the boat. When I'm looking at head styles for this kind of jig fishing, what I really like to look at is a semi-stand-up jig. And what that takes is a little bit of a flattened bottom down here. And what that does is when that jig hits the bottom, the hook is still up off the bottom, the bait is off the bottom. It's just a lot easier for those fish to suck that bait in. And again, I'm going to get a better hook set. Now, the other kind of jigging we do a lot of is pitching a jig. Now, first of all, you'll notice that this is a smaller jig. Typically a 1/16 or an 1/8 ounce jig is what we're going to be pitching. So the head is going to be smaller. But what's important to look at here is the style of hook that's on here. Remember, when I'm pitching a jig or casting it out and I'm jigging it back, now I'm actually setting the hook kind of horizontally back towards me. So the hook gap that's going to catch the fish is anything from the top of the jig head up to this hook point. So what I want here is a wide gapped hook. Doesn't have to be very long, but it's got to be wide gap. And that's what's going to help contact that fish better. Now, this is a very standard style jig head. A lot of times you'll see that extra little eyelet down there. And most packaging will say that's for some kind of a stinger hook. Typically, I don't use stinger hooks, especially when I'm pitching. You just get it up into too much brush and snags and things. That extra stinger hook isn't what I want to do. But what I can do is use that second eyelet for something pretty neat, and that is a little flickering blade down there. And what that does is as I'm moving this through the water, the thing just throws off little flashes, little flickers, little shines, little life down there with that jig, and a lot of times that attracts more bites. So look at the situation that you're fishing, way you're basically setting the hook, and pick the right style jig, and it will put more fish in the boat.